forgiveness. The mother was filled with elation. Her baby was robust and healthy. It clasped onto her finger and gurgled delightedly at her. She threw back her head and laughed, and the infant squinted at her and smiled back, enjoying her humor. The bond of unconditional love had grown, and the mother reveled in the time spent with her child. Her husband stared at them from across the room and was filled with rage. A terrible jealousy exploded through him, and he wished the baby had never happened. His wife no longer had time for him, as her disintended belly wobbled loosely under her dress, 2 buttons undone to feed the baby. The baby grabbed the nipple hungrily and slurped loudly as it drank the milk. The mother's dress was stained, and she seemed unwieldy, her nebulous breasts swollen with milk. Where was his beautiful spouse? And could this woman who was nursing this child be his wife? The mother turned and smiled at her husband for approval, but he looked away, repulsed by them. He had been told that once the baby was born, he would be the happiest man on earth. Had everyone been lying? For all he felt was dejected and revolted by the sight of his family. The mother turned away, trying to hide her hurt. How strange he had become once the baby was born. The initial excitement had given way to disgust, and the more she sought him, the more he withdrew. He knew he was behaving badly. He wanted to love his child and to support his wife, but the more he looked at them, the more resentment he felt. How can I be so shallow? He asked himself angrily. Just because my wife has become unattractive and does not give me the attention I'm used to, he started to avoid his family and began to work late, disappearing on weekends for hours on end, on some pretext or the other. The mother grew despondent. The baby sensed her mother's mood and grew quieter by the day. She did not cry when she wet herself, and her mother forgot to change her diaper. Feeling her mother's pain, the baby stopped asking for milk and supported her in her own way. The mother grew thin. Soon her breasts returned to their original shape and form. She stopped lactating and fed the baby formula milk, and gradually she became her beautiful self, but the glow of happiness eluded her face. The father was consumed with desire and wanted his beautiful wife again. He started to stay at home, but their consummation seemed lifeless as his wife lay in his arms, devoid of desire. And then one day he woke up to find her delirious as a burning fever raged through her. The father panicked. He could not lose her, but she had no desire to live. The baby knew its mother was dying, and it began to cry. It wept like never before, and the father, seeing the pain in the eyes of one so young, held it for the first time in months. The baby stopped crying, holding on to its father in forgiving trust. It knew it was safe, but could they save the mother who was dying of a broken heart? The father stopped going to work. He asked his mother to move in, and with her help he took care of his wife and child. The doctor was called in, and he said there was very little hope. The father did not believe him. He could not believe him, and they called in a specialist. Together they tried to save his wife. The fever crossed over into the danger zone. If it went up any further, the wife would succumb to it. But the father sat up night after night, bringing it down as he delicately delicately dabbed her head with cotton swabs dipped in tepid water. On the 8th day, the fever dipped, and the father smiled for the first time in days. He had the baby in his arms when his wife's eyes fluttered open. Seeing them together, she let out a weak laugh. He would love her baby after all. And at that moment, the father knew he was forgiven. Happily, he held her hand, knowing they would be a family once again.